Total War has always been about larger-than-life battles across historical maps or fantastical lands like in Warhammer. You're always at the head of a massive army about to collide with another. But an even bigger part of those battles are the occasional siege, and in Total War Warhammer 3, we finally get epic sieges with varying capitals and settlements that create easily some of the best siege gameplay in Total War. In this video today, I want to go over all of the new siege mechanics that will be coming with Warhammer 3's launch in February. I'll be doing this in as much of a quote-unquote spoiler-free fashion as possible. We'll start out by talking about a general overview of a lot of the new developments, then show you how those mechanics play out on offense and defense, because you get differing bonuses and objectives depending on which side of the wall your army is on. It's important to note, though, here, guys, that this is an early access build, and as this, some of the numbers here might change before launch, whatever it is, so I just wanted to be transparent with that up front. We'll be playing as Miao Ying in this example, as the embargo limits the factions and legendary lords I can show off, but don't worry, there is plenty of content to come for Warhammer 3, along with streams showing off each character and accompanying spoiler-free campaign overview videos that you will find across the channel. Before we get started, if you have not yet pre-ordered Warhammer 3 and intend on buying the game, you can support the channel by using the link to my Nexus Store. Nexus provides Steam keys directly from the developer, and I get a cut of every sale, so it significantly helps keep the channel alive. Lastly, if you end up enjoying the content, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe. I can't tell you how much it helps out. But let's get started here on the Siege Rework guide for Warhammer 3. So here we are on a siege map, and I'm actually the aggressor in the siege map. I'm the attacker here, but we're going to go over some general mechanics that will apply to both attacking and defending before we talk about the specifics of one over the other. So here we have this settlement here, and I apologize if we hit some portions that are a little choppy and weird. I'm still trying to set up the, well, graphic settings to make sure it is a flawless 60 frames a second experience, so I apologize if that happens at all. But taking a look at the map, if I just kind of make this bigger, you can see across the way that we've got a number of specific locations, certain strategic locations that will contribute to certain things being produced across this map. I can go ahead and do this, and probably a little bit easier. So let's go ahead and hover over one of these. So this gives us a minor supply location. It shows who it's controlled by, but if you look at this, you can see, this is actually, I don't think I've ever used this for a video. You can see these red lines that correspond to certain locations on the map. Well, you can see here too that this generates supplies and controls defensive structures for the owning alliance. A lot of us that have been following the Total War marketing up to this point will recognize this from the survival battles, right? This is what enables you to build towers in that one location and then barricades in two locations down over there. So this will enable us to make a tower here, a barricade there, and a barricade there. If I get, there we go. Get a little better look at this here. Oh, I'm sorry. The barricade is here. Tower, another barricade. So what the important thing about these supply locations is that it gives supply to the defender and allows them to generate the varying levels of tower or the varying types of barricades, which we'll get into in the defensive portion of this. So that's your minor supply location. But then you also have another one over here, and then another one over here, and another one right here. So it's important to kind of know that as the attacker, which one of these supply locations are going to be more crucial for you. Because honestly, barricades, you can kind of push past them unless they're the actual one that does bar your way. The big thing is towers. So this one gives 2 towers. I'm going to want to prioritize getting to this supply location as fast as possible, because those towers will actually tear apart your army. They've really done a good job of making it so that if you have a lesser force, you can actually truly defend a town, a settlement, a provincial capital, whatever it is, way better because of these towers and these barricades. It allows you to have so much advantage. Now, the last location here is extremely important. So let's take a look at this one right there. So this is the key building. This will allow you to have an increase in your melee defense and leadership for the defenders. Look at this. So as long as your unit is greater than 25% hit points and inside the fort, they get 15% melee defense bonus. This is crucial to enabling you to actually defend these hard points or defend this actual whole entire map, because you get a nice bonus to your defensive capabilities. This is, like I said, crucial. And there are a number of ways that the offense can get a number of stacking bonuses depending upon these locations and how they take them. So we'll show that as we go into the aggressor portion of this video. I'm going to be jumping ahead of certain things throughout this, but this just kind of gives you a general overview of these strategic locations and how they operate. And you can now hold down here, you can see, hey, here's where you can mount soldiers across the map too. So all these locations, I think these are just the ones I have visible. These are where I can mount soldiers and have them actually go and shoot these locations. Like, hey, I can have a gun range or a gun line right here shooting at people as they come into this entrance, or over here as they come into this big causeway. So you get a lot of variance too from a Z-axis standpoint here, right? So if I hold this down, yeah, from this perspective, it looks like, oh, great, that army is going to get, or those guys are going to get hit right away. But when you look at it actually on ground level, you've got a nice amount of overwatch on a lot of these openings into this location, into this city. So that's the nice big thing here too, is putting like artillery pieces up here, way out of harm's way, bombing down into this location over there. So this is, again, just a general overview of some of the siege mechanics. So what we're going to do now is jump into this from an aggressor standpoint, from the offensive standpoint. I'm going to show you some of the buffs and some of the things that happen and how they kind of correspond to overall defeating your opponent. So starting off here, we've got Miao Ying, and we're going to be using her army to attack this city you've just seen. And with this, we're going to jump ahead. I'm not going to show you the whole entire siege battle. I'll just kind of show you some cool cuts here and there. I'll just kind of jump to the parts that are actually pertinent. But from this point, we're going to give you a perspective of how we can counteract a lot of those bonuses that the defender gets. Because if I hover over her and I actually bring up her unit card, you're going to see any persistent effects. They're going to appear right here. Well, hold on. Right in this location right here. We'll show that off right to the right of her name as they kind of come into combat, and it'll appear once I press start battle. We'll be able to see more of it. But we're going to start warping ahead. We're going to jump to the first supply location getting captured for the offender, for the person on offense. So let's jump ahead here a little bit. We're just about to capture one of the supply locations, and it's going to lead to some fun changes for the aggressor in a siege. So let's go ahead and take a look here. I've just about got 2 ready to be capped. So by hovering over this one, I can see no towers or no barricades are made at this supply location, and it's this specific supply location. I'm going to unpause it. We're just about there, and we've capped it. Okay, so we've captured this victory point. Clearly the flag is now our color, all these cool things. But what this does then is creates this little bauble right here. So it gives us momentum. This is a passive ability that will increase up to a max of a certain set amount. So you can see melee attack here is increased by 4% for all attackers, up to a magnitude of 20% depending on the total amount of locations I've captured. And I have to do this before the little gauge right there goes down. So if you can barely see this, you're on mobile, it's maybe 15-20% filled. That's like 15% filled, maybe even 10, to be totally honest. And as I capture more of these victory point locations, it will increase that bar and also increase the intensity by 20% with each captured location. You can see right now intensity is 20%. There's 5 total locations. Capturing all 5 would obviously give you 100%, but you'll get to 80% probably by that time if they don't already hit army losses. In fact, I'm about to trigger that with the opposing army, so hopefully we can get this done. Now, looking at this other supply location, we can see that there are 2 towers and six total barricades produced. So capturing this supply location will actually break all those down. Let's go ahead and let this go through. All right, we'll speed it up a little bit. Miao Ying's about to pounce on this dude right here. Came in the wrong neighborhood, partner. Gonna happen. It's pretty much just, obviously dependent upon who's in there. The little green arrow up means that it is increasing quickly. Let's go ahead and fast forward that just a little bit. And there you go. So by capturing that, it destroys all those towers and all those barricades. And if you're the defender, they no longer get the benefit of the supply bonus, which we'll talk about when we're in the defensive screen. So you'll notice too that this momentum has gone up to 40%, doubling our melee attack percentage bonus and the leadership gain, as well as giving us a vigor per second reduction by 1%. This allows you to get strong momentum, and I cannot stress enough how when you are doing an actual siege that you have to no longer, I don't have to no longer, but you really have to focus on taking multiple avenues of attack. You can just focus on one single entryway, but what's going to happen is you're going to be slow to stack your momentum. Your defender is going to still have their really high defensive bonuses, and all of the towers that are within range are going to be sniping you the entire time. In fact, I think this one, let's take a look here. I mean, you can see that the range in these towers is pretty huge. That's all the way over here. And if you look at it on the map, that the juxtaposition from this location to that location is pretty significant. So keeping these towers online is going to be very detrimental to you as an attacker. This is only a rank 1 tower, but still, take a look at this. Missile damage and AP is pretty significant with 350 range. The top tier 3 and 4 tower tiers are just absolutely destructive. If you're playing as Chaos Undivided, since I can talk about the Demon Prince, they will have an actual cannon shooting at you the entire time. So it's not a fun thing to have a hell cannon on the loose. So getting to these pivotal supply points and shutting them down is really, or has really, changed the game for sieges. You're no longer just pouring in through one opening. You've got multiple avenues, and if you don't take them, you will get shut down so hard. This is something that I've talked about with Indie Pride and Turin and Surreal Beliefs. We're all like, man, these sieges are way different. They're a lot more difficult. Even this is the very first siege in the game for Miao Ying's campaign, and you can get pretty torn up if you set it to auto resolve. So it really kind of forces you to take a little more care when you do some really cool sieges. Let's now jump into the defensive side of this. So here we are on the defensive side of the wall to talk about how defense works in the new sieges. For the most part though, mechanics are pretty much the same. Your supply points and everything, they are pertinent, but they're different for you as a defender. So with defense, you have this value up the top here, supplies. Supplies are the income or the currency that you use to make all of your defensive pieces throughout the map. And if I press tab here, you can see there are quite a lot on this map in specific. It just depends upon the map, of course. And if you are familiar with the survival battle from way long ago, a lot of this is going to be the same, but you've got 4 different type of buildings here you can make, 4 different types of defensive pieces. One being a platform, in which will increase the range of anyone on it by 20%. A monument, which will increase melee defense by a further 15%, and leadership by 10. Barricade for trap, which will reduce the speed and melee attack of anyone inside of it. And then lastly, we have a blocker, which just outright blocks and doesn't allow units to pass through it, but it does have a nice missile resistance attached to it for things that want to destroy it from range. But the big thing here are the towers. So these are going to be different according to the faction that holds the location. The defensive pieces over here will all be the same, they'll just look different, but these towers will all react differently depending upon who owns it. So you have a piercing tower here, which does 4 projectiles, and then has a base damage of 70 and AP of 30. You have a different, or a better piercing tower, which has a higher base damage and a higher AP, 100 base, 50 AP. But then you get here into a cannon tower. So this will shoot a just outright, just straight shot cannon, like a single cannonball. So 505 base damage with 195 AP, does some explosion as well here, and has a 10-second reload time. But then we get to the explosive tower, which is going to shoot some projectiles, 28 with 95 base missile and 120 AP with nice explosion of 10 and 25. So every single tower is different for every single faction, and these things are really, really devastating, but they do require a lot of points. So you can see here, I'm in the pre-battle. I can start setting these towers up. Let's just go ahead and build one right here. And we'll build, let's just build a blocker here, and we're out of points. That's it, you know? Like, you have to really spend time setting up all of this stuff, or have an idea of how you want it to go, because it does take time to assemble these once the battle starts. So this is already assembled. That's what we got with our 1000. So let's press start battle. And this will kind of change some stuff, and I'll go over to a persistent effect. So you can see now that we're getting quite a bit of supply per second, right? 8 per supply per second. And we're playing against the Demon Prince here, so I'm not sure what I can and cannot show from the Demon Prince. We're limited to turn 50, so I'm sorry if I don't zoom in on him and show him off. I'm sure a ton of people have been covering him, and I will be streaming him, so I just want to talk about that real quick. But for that supply increasing at 8 per second, that's going to enable us to build more towers, build more of these defensive positions. So as this progresses up, you'll be able to make more. So let's go ahead and fast forward this. And this is going to just jump us ahead to a certain location, to a certain level of production, which will be pretty soon here, right there. So let's go ahead and pause and press this. So now you'll see that when we were in the pre-battle deployment, these things instantly generated. It was assumed that you built them before the enemy showed up. It's just giving you the chance to do it on your own terms. But now that the fight has started, these locations actually have to be built. So you can see now it's going to take 30 seconds for this wall to produce itself. Conversely, when it comes to towers, you can actually upgrade or downgrade them if you so wish. So let's say, we upgrade here to a piercing tower to give us more damage because we know we're going to have some things trying to get this pivotal victory or major leadership point, right? This major leadership key building. We know they're going to start kind of bucking for it, so let's get this thing upgraded as fast as possible. But maybe you say, hey, we've got a tower out here. Where are the tower hard points? A tower right here that we've built it and things aren't really in this direction. You can downgrade or just completely destroy it and get yourself some invested points back. You don't get the full amount, but you do get some. So at least you can try and salvage supply where you can. I think it's about 50%. No, not even 50%. Oh, yeah, no, it's about 50% because this was 500 to make, I believe. So this is a great way to kind of control the flow of battle here. So we'll go ahead and let this produce a little bit more. And you can see after 30 seconds, this has finally been produced. If someone decides to try to go through this before it's produced, they can. Barricades you can walk over, but so you can allow just defending infantry to climb over it. So if you're building a blocker and you want to try and block off a whole causeway, if they get through by the time before it's finished producing, then they can just simply walk right through it. So one thing too I wanted to note was about persistent effects. So if I look over here, I can find out persistent effects, right? We have the defensive stance because this is Cathay, but here is the siege defensive bonus. Like I said, this will be present on any defending unit that you see. So if you're attacking and you're wanting to know what the hell's going on, where they're getting all this defense from, you now see exactly where it is. The same thing is true of any attacker. It'll show momentum in this little location as well. But this gives you a really good idea now of how sieges have really changed in Warhammer 3 and how these defensive portions you really need to attack from multiple angles. You can see that the AI has done that, right? This is all, I didn't set the army up at all. I just pretty much just press start battle for you guys. But the AI knows to attack in multiple directions. If you try to attack just one, like I've said before, you're going to be hit from a tower attacking you from so many different angles that you really have to focus on pressure from multiple angles. And in the earlier portions of the game, you'll find that you'll be fighting these battles against these 10-man armies, or I'm sorry, 10-unit armies, and you might have 15 or 20, and it's actually an uphill battle. So it's a lot of fun to see that this has actually changed the way this works, and I'm really excited for you guys to get your hands on it. If you have any questions about the overall siege battles, how they work, certain things maybe that I missed that you wanted to hear more information about, by all means, go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. I think it's all pretty straightforward, but I did want to give you guys this kind of inside scoop on what has changed with sieges. But as always, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one, and take care.